So flowback is the mixture of liquids and gases that come back to surface after a hydraulic fracturing operation is complete. The liquid component is separated out at a separator and then stored in a holding tank at surface, while the gases and aerosols in the air phase will be released to a flare where they can be burnt or combusted and released to the environment.
The flowback emissions study is to look at one piece of a very complicated puzzle to understand what emissions come from oil and gas wells that are hydraulically fractured. And when we do that, there can be emissions off-site. Those emissions enter our air, and in this case, the community around the Cochrane region expressed concerns about what may be in those emissions. So the flowback study is to take a first look at what might be present. By sampling the wells, collecting data from those wells, and looking at them from both ecological and human health risk.
I think that one of the main responses I've heard in the communities that I've been in is that they're glad that the regulator is doing something to look into this, that the health and environmental potential impacts are extremely important out there in the community, and that all the information that can be used, and if there's gaps in information, to find ways to get that information so that any decisions made going forward can be for the betterment of our health and environment.
I think evidence-based regulation is essential. All regulatory decisions really need to be based on quantitative evidence. There's important factors on all sides. Obviously, oil and gas is vital to the economic development of Alberta and Canada. Obviously, clean air is essential. And so balancing decisions and viewpoints needs scientific evidence, and that's what we're here for.
So phase one of the study is now complete. This is where we looked at characterizing what types of gases and aerosols might be present in the flowback emissions, and this will lead into phase two of the study that's being led by Alberta Health, where they'll actually look at what could be produced by the combustion of those gases and aerosols and released to the environment.
It's one thing to find those contaminants in a sample. If you look for anything, you can find it. The tougher part of the question, which is what Alberta Health will need to tackle, is whether or not you're actually exposed to that. Did you actually breathe that in, or is it just in your surrounding environment? And that's not to downplay it, but your exposure route is just as important as it being present. So you may not be breathing it in, but it's important to know that that contaminant may also then still be depositing on the soil, and you may be coming into contact with it.
I do think that it is important to remember in this flowback emissions study that it's a piece of the puzzle, it's not the whole answer. There's discussions around what potential types of things would need to be looked at based on results of this study. So it's never been presented to me as this is it and then we walk away, but it's a next step in information to better inform not only decisions going forward, but also to help all those involved in finding, what's the next question we need to ask and be more effective with that.
AER historically, with the introduction of Directive 60 circa year 2000, was ahead in a lot of respects. I think a lot of jurisdictions have done quite aggressive measures on regulating flaring. Internationally, the World Bank is striving for a zero routine flaring initiative. Canada signed on to that by 2030. And I think AER is once again working to make sure that the forefront of that, and that's really what this study is about.